Hi, this is a recording of Hiring for Executives webinar series part 1 on the topic of how to define a role. The hiring process consists of 7 steps, and we will be holding webinars on 5 of the main steps. First, position mapping, aka how to define a role. 4. Interviewing. 5. Reference checks. 6. Making the hiring decision. The hiring process doesn't end with hiring the person. So 7. Onboarding. Our main speaker today is Tõnis Arro. Tõnis Arro has been a headhunter for 30 years, has established several companies in the professional services sector, and 5 years ago he co-founded people analytics company Wisnio, the SaaS platform that helps managers of all levels to make better hiring decisions. Before the lecture, we want to give you a little exercise. So at home, you can pause the video, look for a paper and pen to make notes, because we're gonna play you one video and I would like you to listen carefully and take notes. And think about what is the role this executive is trying to describe to you. So it's a video of one executive describing a role, and try to understand who he is looking for.
I want someone who can get the work done. This person has to be a great leader, but also a team player and good and cooperating with other departments and units. Not a big director, but someone who rolls up his sleeves and gets things done. Generally, a really highly motivated and trustworthy person. Definitely also self-starting and independent. I don't want anyone who needs daily guidance and orders. An independent person, a leader, and doer. I would assume the person has a degree in business or economics. I think we need someone who has worked in an international environment. As we are a matrix organization, this experience is absolutely necessary. Also, as we use SAP, a person who had used the same software would be preferred. We are a values-based organization, so compliance with our corporate values is a must. And we have an open office policy, which means the candidate has to be comfortable with this.
Please comment. Any impressions, observations? Like, what did you learn about the video? What did you learn about the job? Was it a typical description that executives might give an HR person or consultant? John writes, I think he was looking for a jack of all trades, someone who can do everything. Yes, that's true. That's true that it's really almost a Superman he's looking for. And Alo says it's a little bit hectic, a super person, yes. And hard to understand what the role is. That is something I really hope that someone will notice. You don't know anything about the role, do you? You know lots of things he would like the person to be, but what kind of job is it? You don't know. He wants someone who can the work done, but no idea what work. That's true. So he told us a lot of things, but nothing essential. So if we try to summarize, it's a pretty typical situation of an unsystematic description of a role, but it doesn't include the most important things about the role, includes a lots of information. Did anyone notice there was also things that shouldn't never be in a position description? No one has mentioned that actually some of the requirements are quite unreasonable, what were there. Software sounded random. That's one of the points, yes, what I wanted to make. So SAP, of course, this is a thing that if you use it, you have to learn it first, but learning takes a couple of days to start using it quite, or maybe even less. So there should never be this kind of requirements in the position description, what you can learn on space, on the workplace in a couple of days. And there was one more thing, which is typically or very often written down in job specifications or position descriptions, that's the requirement to have a business degree or just a requirement for a certain level of education. It's usually just a nice to have thing. Very, very rarely it is really a necessary thing. So for example, if you can imagine that if you are looking for a sales manager, for example, so it's important that he has done sales management job and how well he has done it and how long and what he achieved. This is important. But whether he has a degree in business or economics, this is quite irrelevant. So first, what the position map is. It's like position description or position map. I like the term position map a little bit more. I would say that this is a starting point of the hiring process, but very often it's done very randomly or more or less skipped at all. So if you think of a typical hiring situation, someone leaves and the HR gets message that we have to look for a replacement, and then they dig out an old job description, what was written maybe a couple of years ago in different circumstances. And the executive has the understanding that, well, everything is in place and just gives the command, bring me some candidates and I will start interviewing them without analyzing whether the job has changed or what kind of situation there is today. So anyway, position map is not a description written by HR. It has to be carefully thought through by the executive or manager who makes the hiring decision. And usually there might be different people involved. So very often there is a couple of managers involved in this hiring situation. So what we need to do is to get those people in the same room, so to say, and make them agree with each other what it is what they are looking for. So important thing, it shouldn't be too detailed. So if you have more than 10 requirements or criteria, this is too much usually. It might be some exceptions, but usually up to 10 or less than 10 is reasonable. More is unnecessary. And of course, these criteria should be measurable. Now, what the position map should tell you. Position map tells you first, why do you need this role? Second, what the person in this role needs to achieve. So if you think of this, that what is the end result of the work, what this person is going to do, what are the things you need to be done after a year. So this is something which gives you a good input to discuss what kind of qualities you need this person to have. If you don't think of the end result, then everything you tell about the requirements might be not related to the things what this person has to achieve. And finally, what are the core competencies of the best candidate? So the basic requirements are the things what you need to decide whom to include in the pool of candidates. And the competencies are the things you need to make your mind, who is the one person you want to make your job offer. So the description, like mentioned, this is the short description stating purpose of the role. Why do you need this role? And this is like 1 or 2 sentences, no more. Very, very important to have it clear and focused. Second, then the objectives. If you ask your manager who is making the hiring decision, like, tell me 3 things what this person has to achieve that you would be happy with in the end of the year. So that's the question that helps to get to the goals. Not list the tasks, but write down the objectives here. Second or third, then it's the threshold requirements. What are the basic requirements the person need to reach the objectives? Like mentioned, only must-have things here, not nice-to-have things, and no skills what you can learn quickly. So for example, what might be a must-have thing for a person working in an international environment? Probably English language might be something it's difficult to learn in a couple of days. You just either have it or not. Then when the person has a management experience, management responsibility or team management, then if he or she has led teams earlier, it is quite essential requirement. And then finally, the competencies, which are clusters of qualities that differentiate between average performers and excellent performers. Usually people have 2 or 3 of these competencies, what makes them successful in their job roles. And there are lots of competency dictionaries you can use to describe these competencies for one role. As mentioned already, it helps you to differentiate or find the top candidates among everybody who can be considered for the role. Usually 3 top competencies for each role is sufficient, because if you think of a manager making this hiring decision, usually you don't have time to assess more than 3 competencies. So you need to ask a question or 2 about each competence to make sure you can differentiate who has these things better than others. And when defining the competencies, you might also like to think what your team is lacking.
I'm going to share screen now, and let's bring one example based on everything that we just discussed. So this is Wisnio, and as a co-founder of Wisnio, maybe Tõnis, you want to say a couple of words before we go into the example.
Okay, you see on the screen now a part of the platform. This is the hiring flow on our platform. There is position mapping, shortlist, interview, compare candidates, and onboarding. So these 5 stages are the parts or steps in the hiring process. And these are built on best practices of hiring professionals, or maybe also we have been inspired by Daniel Kahneman's research about how the hiring should be done to reduce noise and bias in this. So what we can say, if you use this hiring flow here, you hire in a professional way, and you start from position mapping and then move to other steps.
So in our example, we are looking for head of marketing. And let's say it's a SaaS company and it's rather a small, like a startup who's trying to grow right now. So there are not many people in the team. So the first step, as Tõnis mentioned, is to write the position description. So let's have a look if we managed to write a good one. Tõnis can help us to evaluate it. So in here, we say that head of marketing responsibilities include developing plans to help to promote our brand, allocating resources to different projects, and growing and developing a high-performing team. The main objective of marketing in our organization is to deliver qualified leads into the sales pipeline. Is this enough, or should it be longer?
I think it's quite good.
Then we click Save and move forward. So the next step was having key objectives. So the objectives that help you to basically determine and evaluate if the person has been successful. So I added already a couple. And the first one is about having a clear understanding of the company's target audience, customer segmentation strategies, customer and client personas, and go-to-market strategy to reach the main segments. Mm-hmm. Okay. Is it a good one? It's okay.
It's fine.
Okay, the second one, oh, nice, we have a measurement, something that's very, very important, saying that the marketing activities deliver at least 10% month-to-month growth in sales qualified leads. Mm-hmm. That's even better. Okay, so let's add third one. Let's think, it's a young company and probably they need to start building up the team as well. So yes. It's going to be the responsibility of the head of marketing. I think we should add something about this. Okay, maybe I have one.
Like team leadership experience or experience of leading a team or hiring people or something like this. Okay.
Wait. So as an objective, what do you think about this one? It's not measurable, but it has like mentions that the person needs to have this kind of high performing team that consists of copywriter, social media manager, and SEO specialist, hired and onboarded. So it's kind of.
I like it in this way that it's written hired and onboarded. That means that it's not a description of activity, but description of the end result, that these people are in place, they are all the process is done, and they are onboarded as well. So that's a good one.
Okay, so you shouldn't write that hire a social media manager, etc. Okay, so you think about the future.
So the end result, not the activity.
Okay, super. Are we happy with those 3? We can move forward.
Yeah.
Okay, so 3
and
is.
Here the criteria, like I mentioned earlier, is that only the hiring manager can say what are the three most important things what this person has to achieve during 1 year. And when he says that these are the 3 things, then these are the right ones.
Okay, click save. And we move forward to position requirements. Okay, so can you remind people what the position requirements were about?
So these are the things you need to start building a long list. And long list is the prospective candidates you want to target or talk to, whom you want to consider to this role. So the position requirements are like threshold requirements. It's absolutely must-have things what everybody should have, whom you want to consider to this role.
So things like being a good communicator, I don't know, getting along with co-workers. Is it something that goes here?
No, because being a good communicator, you have to, it's a complicated thing to evaluate. So something like I mentioned, have you had people management responsibility? This is yes or no thing. Or do you speak English? Have you used English as a professional language? This is yes or no thing. You have done it or not. So these kind of things.
Okay, so we have the first one, like a proven ability to drive customer acquisition through marketing. So that's good.
This is a good example. Usually the first thing you need to include here is certain type of experience. You have to, you look for someone who has done something similar what you need in this role.
Okay, because hiring was quite a big topic, like building the team. What do you think if we add something like this? A proven ability to lead a team and recruit high-performing marketing specialists.
Yeah, very good.
Okay. And the description box is actually good to use to like describe a little bit with the questions, what is exactly what you want to ask and etc. So I add here, like ask the candidate to describe their team building and management experience, let them describe their professional network and the 3 people they would call if they're hiring into their team today. Okay, looks good.
Good.
Okay. So we have 2 criteria and I think we can move on. Okay, so now the competencies. Do you want to say a couple words about the competencies?
Well, if you open the competencies dictionary, it's quite obvious what these things are. So these are the things which are like clusters of qualities and behavioral patterns, so to say, that help people to be successful in certain roles. And the idea is that we have here like 20-something competencies. They are some are like related to performance management of other people, some are related to self-management, some are related to interpersonal relations, and so on. And how we do this exercise, if you click on one of these, you can also see how is the situation in the team. But so I mentioned that you want every person you bring into a team to strengthen the team. But generally, you can just look at this, and if you find something important, you drag and drop it in the middle, and then you later on think what is more important. Now we have selected 9, and now the next step should be like, look at the left-hand side to this column and decide whether there was something you skipped, which should be in there. If you ask a manager now, like, look at this, and you see the 3 must-have competencies here: accountability, business acumen, and attention to detail, and look everything else what you have here. Are these the most important things? And very often they say, well, maybe customer focus should be moved to the first column, or something like this.
Okay, I have one tricky question myself. So let's say in this case that we think that like planning and organizing for head of marketing is definitely something they must have, but the team already has a lot of people who are very confident or highly skilled in this. So what should you do? Should you still think that, okay, it's a head of marketing, they need to know how to plan, or you rather move it out of this must-have because the team can help with planning and organizing?
Well, there is no clear kind of rule how to decide this. Just for the manager and maybe the consultant involved together to decide what are the priorities here, what are the 3 must-have things. If you click on this, maybe let's show others also, like how this. Here we see that from the 4 members of the team, 3 are highly confident in this planning and organizing competence. So anyway, so we can just think whether this is enough, and the new SaaS manager doesn't need to be so strong in this, because there are already other people who are very good in it. If you press Save Changes, show the document what is generated as well.
Yes. So we closed it, and now if I click on print, Tõnis, do you want to say a couple of words about it?
This is something you just can generate immediately after you have done it. As you see, like, you spend maybe 20 minutes to discuss this rule with the hiring manager, and then you can generate a document which can then be an input to anyone who starts working with building the long list. It might be HR partner or talent acquisition people in the organization, or consultant outside. Anyway, they have like the agreement with the hiring manager about what is it they are looking for. If we think of the hiring process like a journey, then if you don't have a good position map, then you have no idea what is the end point of the journey. So that means that every point you reach or get to is good enough.
Okay, good metaphor. I liked it. Okay, John has a question. Good questions. Seems pretty cool. Can I try Wisnio out for free?
Yes, Mirel, you have Wisnio open. You can open if you go to the wisnio.com and there is a nice blue button on the right-hand top corner, Start Free Trial, and that allows you, if you click there, you can create your own profile, and you can invite 3 friends and form a team and see the full functionality.
Thank you. Will Wisnio develop a training portal or videos going forward? Do you mean get a training like about the theory part of, or training about the Wisnio platform, or the platform?
Yes, like we
actually do have.
Yeah, this webinar is one of the things which will be up there. Also, we are developing a training course about hiring, so that will be hiring for executives, which is also using Wisnio platform on each stage. So this hiring for executives course will include videos like the first one we looked today, and also many others, also some reading materials, quizzes, exercises, and it will be live in a couple of weeks, I hope, on Coursera platform. We're doing it together with the Estonian Business School, and we will notify you when it's available.
So Alo asked, Doesn't my HR manager know better than I do what we should write into the job spec?
Oh, that's a good one. Thank you. Actually, he or she don't. And because as hiring decision is the business decision, and it's one of the most important decisions each manager makes. So it's only himself or herself, the manager, who can tell what are the criteria. So HR manager or HR partner, they can help executives, but their help should not be writing the description themselves, but maybe asking the right questions or giving the framework to the manager. So let's assume that the manager is someone like the person whom we were just listening recently here on the screen. If the HR manager wants to really be helpful, he or she should then ask the managers this kind of questions that tell me about what this person has to achieve. So this is a helpful question. Second helpful question might be that, okay, tell me now, what do you think are the threshold requirements for this role? And then taking a competency dictionary and analyzing what competencies you might need. But saying that, well, my manager is very busy, I tried to write the job description myself, this is something really wrong.
Okay, thank you, Tõnis. So as I heard, basically the job of HR is to be like a facilitator and a coach to make sure that you get the right information. There's a question from Mike that if you have like 20 things on the list, you mentioned that there should be 10, then how can you like prioritize, or what should you do if there's too many?
Yes, like I think like if you have written down the objectives for this role, then you look at your list and then you can decide which requirements what you kind of drafted there are actually important for these objectives. So that's why the objectives are necessary. So there is no, it's not hard science here. It's like you just have to think, use your best understanding of the role, and then think like, well, whether this thing you wrote down here is really important to achieve these objectives.
Okay, makes sense. So as a summary, check your objective, evaluate the different points that you have against the objective, and choose the ones that make the most sense. Okay, we have another question about the objectives. I think it's a good one. Why is it good to have measurable objectives?
Okay.
You mentioned they have to be measurable. So I think it makes it more clear, basically, to evaluate if the candidate has been successful, because if you write down like a bunch of tasks that the candidate needs to complete, then you can either complete the tasks in a way that there is a good result. For example, I make a blog post and it's a blog post, a lot of people read it, they share it, etc. Or I can just write the blog post that nobody reads and they see, oh, it's bad and it doesn't like spread and etc. So I guess you don't want the candidate just to do a bunch of stuff. You want the candidate to have the results. And that's why you need to have measurable objectives.
Yeah, and there is one more thing which is maybe important here. Like very often the job descriptions or position maps include a lot of description of activity, what the person has to do. For example, you can read things like analyzes the market situation. So, and this is something, well, it's done when you did it. Like I analyzed it all the time, but you didn't achieve anything. But let's, so that's the end result of something. Like if you analyze something, you give an input to another process, for example, or someone who makes decisions has always equipped with a good quality analysis results or something like this.
Thank you for watching. I hope you found this video useful. If you have any questions, you can contact us at support@wisnio.com.